African history, the Zanzibar Revolution of 1964. 1. The Zanzibar Revolution of 1964. 1. Examine the causes and effects of the 1964 Zanzibar Revolution. 2. Discuss the causes of the Zanzibar Revolution of 1964. 3. Racism was primarily responsible for the outbreak of Zanzibar Revolution in 1964. Discuss. 4. Racial inequality was primarily responsible for the Zanzibar Revolution. Discuss. 5. Discuss the problems that the Africans in Zanzibar faced in 1964. 6. To what extent was colonial legacy British responsible for the Zanzibar Revolution? 7. Account for the collapse of the Arab government in Zanzibar in 1964. Edit. Account for the success of the Zanzibar Revolution. 9. To what extent was John Okolo responsible for the success of the 1964 Zanzibar Revolution? 10. To what extent were the economic factors responsible for the outbreak of the 1964 Zanzibar Revolution? 11. Account for the defeat of Arab-dominated government by 1964. Causes of the Zanzibar Revolution of 1964. The 1964 Zanzibar Revolution was staged by Africans in Zanzibar led by John Okolo Olangi from northern Uganda against the Arab government of Sultan Jamshid. It took place between 11th and 12th January 1964 when John Okolo toppled / overthrew the Arab government. The causes of the 1964 Zanzibar Revolution were political, social, and economic as seen below. 1. Politically, the need for genuine independence caused the 1964 Zanzibar Revolution. The independence granted to them in December 1963 was a sham. This was because the British handed over the administration of the independent island into the hands of the Arabs who were regarded as foreigners who had ruled the island for long. The Zanzibar people were not ready to continue under foreign rule, hence the outbreak of the revolution. 2. Political domination of Africans by Arabs caused the Zanzibar Revolution. The Arabs dominated the executive, legislature, and judiciary. This exposed Africans to racial oppression that they rose against to get balance of power. 3. The improper handover of power by the British to the Arabs caused the Zanzibar Revolution. The British, in an act of favoritism, hand over instruments of power to the Arab minority without providing for them protection of the majority Africans. This independence granted to the Arabs was interpreted by Africans as Uhuru war of not for Zanzibar, no land reforms, no funds for crop diversification scheme for the peasantry. This provided the islanders into the revolution. 4. The retrenchment / dismissal of the African policemen from the police force led to the Zanzibar Revolution. The Arab government discharged many African policemen and this inevitably made them jobless. This was done basing on suspicion of being disloyal. The dismissed African policemen teamed up with John Okolo to pin down the Arab rule. 5. The policy of Arabization of the island caused the revolution. The Arab government tried to. African history, the Zanzibar Revolution of 1964. 2. Therefore, the Africans felt humiliated and organized for the overthrow of the Arab regime. 7. The ruthlessness of the independent Arab government resulted into Zanzibar Revolution. For example, they enacted laws which prevented the opposition leaders from flying abroad, denied passports and visas. The Minister of Internal Affairs was permitted to break into offices of the opposition and take anything of interest, for example files. The Africans were by force made to wear the Sultan's badge with the inscription His Highness the Sultan. Any African working with the Arab rule was not allowed to participate in the politics. This disgruntled the Africans, thus the revolution. 8. Failure of the constitutional means to end the Arab rule on the island led to the revolution. For example, 19,571,963 several elections were organized on a non-racial franchise, but an Arab-led party's ENP was able to win. It is said that the election results were always tampered with to the annoyance of Africans. 9. Rumors about the Arab plans to brutalize Africans caused the revolution. It was said that the Arabs wanted to have a firm grip on the island, intermarry with African girls and kill all babies, kill those who had killed Arabs in the 1961-63 elections, expel people from non-Zanzibar origin, among others. All these plans were to be implemented beginning 13th January 1964. This made Africans organize a revolution against the Arabs to save their living. 10. Influence of World War II led to the outbreak of the Zanzibar Revolution in 1964. It created adventure for respect of human rights and liberties, opened Africans to the external better conditions, created a group of ex-servicemen, for example MC Muhammad Bobu, who led a group of 100 ex-servicemen to join John Okolo in turning tables against the Arab rule. 11. The role played by John Okolo contributed to the revolution in 1964. He organized the brutalized Zanzibarians, brought on board the retrenched policemen and workers who were poorly paid to champion the revolution. 12. The role played by the Afro Shah's party ASP led to the outbreak of the revolution. This party was formed by Ahmed Karim, who organized Africans at the island, and the splitter group of Umma Party led by MZ Mohammed Bobby, thus the 1964 revolution. 13. Economic domination of the island by Asians supported by the Arabs caused the revolution in Zanzibar. The Asians controlled trade and commercial activities, dominated finance, the civil service, and Africans were simply exploited. This inevitably led to the revolution. 14. Economic crisis in Zanzibar caused the revolution. By 1964, the prices of cloves, the main cash crop of the island, had declined on the world market. This decline badly hit Zanzibar. Poverty increased, provision of social services such as education, medical greatly decreased, civil servants were cut off because the government was unable to provide for them. This made the government lack public support, hence the revolution. 15. Overtaxation of the Africans led to the Zanzibar revolution. Africans paid heavy and several taxes which benefited the foreigners. The tax collection was accompanied by unfriendly means like public flogging and arrest, hence laying a foundation for the 1964 revolution. African history, the Zanzibar Revolution of 1964. 3. 18. Social inequality in education provision at the island caused the 1964 revolution. Education amenities were monopolized by the Arabs, and attainment of education was based on the ability to pay fees that left the majority Africans ignorant and illiterate. The Arab government denied African scholarships that was a preserve for the Arabs and Asians that led to the revolution in 1964. 19. The slave trade legacy also caused the 1964 revolution. Young Africans had learnt about the inhuman slave trade in which the Arabs kidnapped and sold a number of Africans into slavery in the Arab world and America. This contributed to a strong sense of resentment and bred hostility between Arabs and Africans, hence the 1964 Zanzibar Revolution. 20. Racial conflicts on the island caused the revolution. There was social stratification in Zanzibar based on color. For example, the Arab minority of 50,000 dominated the majority Africans that amounted to 250,000 people. The Africans were neglected in the provision of social services contrary to the Arabs and Asians, hence leading to the outbreak of the revolution. Guiding question. 1. To what extent was racism responsible for the Zanzibar Revolution of 1964? Give a brief background of the Zanzibar Revolution of 1964. Identify and explain the role of racism in causing this revolution. A clear standpoint is needed. The Zanzibar Revolution was staged up by Africans in Zanzibar led by John Okolo Alangi from northern Uganda against the Arab government of Sultan Jamshid. It took place between 11th and 12th January 1964 when John Okolo toppled the Arab government. Racism refers to the favoritism of one race against the other. In Zanzibar, the British practiced it as they favored the Arabs against the Africans, while the Arab government of Sultan Jamshid that took over at independence continued with the vice. To a greater extent, racism/racial inequality caused the Zanzibar Revolution in the following ways. Racism led to the denial of Africans better education facilities, which led to the revolution in 1964. Racism made the British to rig the 1963 elections, which angered the Africans to rise up against the Arabs. Racism made the Arabs to introduce some proportional tax structure whereby the Africans paid more taxes, yet they had no means of raising the money to pay the tax, hence the revolution. Arabs discriminated Africans in employment, especially civil service jobs, hence attracting a revolution. Racism led to the dismissal of Africans from police, which remained only for the Arabs to attract a revolution against the Arabs. Racism widened income inequality since Arabs enjoyed high income earning jobs while Africans' inferior jobs also caused the 1964 Zanzibar Revolution. Racism led to domination of trade and commerce by Asians and Arabs. African history of the Zanzibar Revolution of 1964. 4. Racism led to introduction of the dangerous Arab plan, which angered Africans to cause the revolution in 1964/Arab plan of changing Zanzibar into an Arab state. Racism made Africans expect John Okolo to lead the revolution. Racism caused the disfranchisement that caused the 1964 Zanzibar Revolution. Racism led to the imposition of forced labor on Africans, hence a revolution. Racism bred inequality in land distribution as huge chunks of land were given to the Arabs other than the Africans, hence a revolution. Racism led to Arab domination of Zanzibar politics. Racism led to the formation of political parties along racial lines like Afro-Shira's Party, ASB for Africans, and ZNP and ZPPP were both for Arabs, leading to the revolution. Racism led to social stratification in Zanzibar based on races such as Arabs were at the top, Asians in the middle, and Africans at the bottom. Racism renewed historical hostilities between the Arabs and Africans associated with slave trade as a revolution. To a smaller extent, however, other factors caused the Zanzibar Revolution of 1964. Need for genuine independence by Zanzibarians. Rise of John Okolo, who provided leadership. Economic crisis of 1960s, which led to the decline of the price of cloves. Cold War politics / role of USSR / influence of the socialist ideology. Influence of W. Chu. Role of educated Africans in Zanzibar who criticized the Arab injustices, hence joined hands with John Okolo against the Arab rule. The role played by colonial legacy in forced labor. The improper handover of power by the British to the Arabs. Overtaxation. Education imbalance / education bias. Land grabbing / land alienation. Britain failed to address racial inequalities. The British failed to end the poor working conditions of Africans. Planned to turn Zanzibar into a constitutional monarchy. Treated Africans as slaves on the island. Failed to manage 1961-1963 elections. Factors for the success of the Zanzibar Revolution. The revolution in Zanzibar was organized on 11-12 of January 1964 by John Okolo Ugandan against the Arab minority government. It was able to succeed due to the following. 1. The role played by John Okolo led to the success of the Zanzibar Revolution. He mobilized the African history, the Zanzibar Revolution of 1964. 3. The small size of the island helped the revolutionaries to easily succeed. Zanzibar Island was only 640 square miles, making it easy to be captured. It enabled revolutionary messages to easily circulate. 4. The role played by the dismissed African policemen led to the success of the revolution in Zanzibar. The Africans who were sent away from the police carried their experience, expertise, and knowledge to overthrow the Arab rule. They teamed up with John Okolo to rise and capture power and authority in Zanzibar. 5. The capture of Siwani and Mtoni police stations enabled the revolution to succeed. Their capture enabled the revolutionaries to acquire guns, which enabled them to capture many more places. The guns supplemented African tools like pangas, sticks, and stones, among others. 6. The capture of Mazazini radio station facilitated the success of the revolution. The radio was used to mobilize and sensitize the masses against the Arabs and to drive them towards the revolutionaries. 7. The revolution was secretly organized and planned. Revolutionary information, plans, and activities were kept to themselves, and the government was taken by storm when revolution occurred. 8. The support given to the revolutionaries by the native people of Zanzibar led to the success. The people of Zanzibar readily accepted John Okolo, who was a foreigner, and rallied behind him to overthrow the Arab rule. 9. The revolution was organized on a strategic day when the Arab Muslims least expected any violent act. They were celebrating their Ranatan and were deeply involved in prayers. Therefore, the revolution was a surprise to the Arab government, hence success. 10. The numerical strength of the Africans led to the success of the Zanzibar Revolution. While Africans were the majority on the island to the tune of 250,000, yet the Arabs were 30,000 and their Asian counterparts were 20,000. Thus, it was easy for the majority Africans to overrun them. Arab government given their big population. 11. The military weakness of the Arab rule facilitated the success of the Zanzibar Revolution. The Arabs had a weak police force made of newly recruited officers who were inexperienced, mainly of the Arab and Asian race. The country had a very young army which could not handle matters of emergency. 12. The support given to the revolutionaries by the neighboring countries led to the success. Countries like Tanganyika and Mozambique gave financial and military support to islanders, hence success. John Okolo himself confessed that he received support from outside, which enabled him to stage a successful revolution. 13. The Arab government in Zanzibar did not get any support from the British, who had for long supported their stay in Zanzibar. Even the Arabs from Oman were distant and did not rush to help their comrades in Zanzibar, hence the success of the Zanzibar Revolution. 14. The flight of Sultan Jamshid contributed to the success of the revolution. The Arab leader left. African history, the Zanzibar Revolution of 1964. 6. Okolo formed and organized a revolutionary force that effected a revolution to overthrow the Arab democratic rule. He was certain that an African self-government was only possible through revolution. Okolo gave shrewd and courageous leadership and determination to the revolutionary command, armed with rudimentary equipment such as spears, sticks, arrows, and bows, which motivated them to effect change. Okolo led to a successful expedition on the government armory at Siwani. This enabled the revolutionaries to obtain and control weapons that enabled the successful capture of the Mtoni police post. John Okolo commanded in popularity from his former Zanzibar and Pemba Painters Union, some of whom were into the revolutionary force. Even among the masses, Okolo's revolution was popular. He capitalized on the common grievances on the island, and this attracted majority of the Afro-Shirazi party members to welcome the revolution. Okolo was popular among the Afro-Shirazi party members and the Youth League. Thus, the revolution received political recognition from the popular political organizations. The ASB members carried much hatred against it. Arab minority rule on the islands of Zanzibar and Pemba. Okolo managed to organize the revolution away from the ASB leadership, which party took the Arab government by surprise. He organized the revolution without causing alarm and suspicion from the Arab government that concentrated on the bitter activities of the ASB leaders. Okolo effectively used the ex-servicemen of World War II like General Mohammed, who still harbored dissatisfaction against the Arabs and the British. Okolo was an ex-police officer from Pemba who recruited and made great use of his fellow retrenched police officers that had strong hatred against the racist Arab government. The ex-police officers formed the backbone of Okolo's revolutionary force. Okolo's physical prowess and ambition carried him to liberate the oppressed islanders of Zanzibar and Pemba. He was determined to restore the dignity of Africans, their economic status, and achieve an African self-government. Effects of the Zanzibar Revolution. Positives. 1. The new government was formed in Zanzibar and it was made up of revolutionaries, for example Abeid Karim, MZ Mohammed Bobby Rahman, John Okolo, Rashid Kawawa, and it was also known as the Revolutionary Command Council RCC. 2. Genuine independence was realized on the island of Zanzibar. The Arabs and Asians were seen parking without any mercy. African history, the Zanzibar Revolution of 1964. 7. 6. Kiswahili language was revived, replacing Arabic and English speaking on the island. This explains why Abeid Karim became vice president of Tanzania, yet he spoke no English word. 7. Islam and Islamic culture were respected on the island of Zanzibar. 8. Africans gained paid employment in the civil service, thus improving their incomes and welfare. 9. Resulted into the unity of Zanzibar and Tanganyika in 1964 from Tanzania. Naira became the first president of the Union government and was deputized by Abeid Karim. Tani merged with ASB later in 1977 to form Chama Cha Mapinduzi CMM. 10. Zanzibar was recognized by the communist bloc such as USSR or China. It was also later recognized by the capitalist bloc, for example USA, Britain among others. This enabled the country to get a lot of foreign aid. 11. There was land redistribution enabling Africans to own land and increase production. 12. The government started housing schemes to accommodate the poor Africans and improve their social-economic welfare. Negatives. 13. Several Arabs and Asians died in an African attempt to revenge. About 13,000 Arabs and Asians perished. 14. There was massive looting of Arab and Asian shops, which contributed to the decline of the economy. This was because the Africans lacked the art of business and could not sustain the flow of the business ventures. 15. The revolution resulted into a refugee crisis as several Zanzibarians trekked into Tanganyika soon after the revolution. 16. The revolution led to the rejection of John Okolo in Zanzibar and throughout Midland of East Africa. He became a wanderer and was witch-hunted everywhere he went. He was declared a person non grata, for instance unwanted person, arrested every time he was seen. 17. Resulted into army immunities throughout East Africa in 1964. The army rebelled in Uganda and it required foreign assistance to end it. In Tanzania, it was suppressed harshly. In Kenya, the army rebellion involved both peaceful and militant approach.